Welcome back to another one of my science lesson. This time we'll be talking about life processes or characteristics of living things. Now there are several um, characteristics. I mean, living things display a lot of characteristics, but for all intent and purposes, we're going to narrow it down to seven. Seven main characteristics that we as scientists use to determine whether an organism is alive, or no, whether an organism is living, as opposed to it being a non-living thing, which means basically it was never alive. All right, so we have to make that distinction. We're talking about living things and things that were alive, all right, as opposed to things that were never alive to begin with, didn't have any life. So in order to differentiate them, scientists have narrowed it down to seven major characteristics. And in the characteristics, we can also say life processes. They are interchangeable. Any one of them you can use. All right, let's go move into it. Um, I'm going to put it in my order so that to make it seem uniform and flowing. All right, so that I'm doing it my way. So number one is feeding. All living things must feed. All right. So feeding is basically, for those of you who know, you love to write down notes. If you want to write a simple version of feeding, feeding is the process or the method by which organisms obtain their food, or all living things obtain the nutrients they need to survive. So food is important for three main reasons. One, you need food to grow. You need food to maintain good health, like your vitamins and minerals. These things help you so that you don't get deficiency disease. Like if you lack vitamin C, you can get scurvy, kwashiorkor, I think if you lack protein, and beriberi, marasma, all of them type of disease there. You can get with lack of certain nutrients. You get weak or brittle bone if you lack calcium, and the list goes on. All right, just to give a feed. And the third reason why we need food is for energy. Now, energy, we get that from the food. The oxygen reacts with the dissolved food in your cells, in cells of living things, and that reaction is a burning process. So we say the process by which food is burnt by oxygen to release energy, with metabolic waste being formed um, in the form of carbon dioxide and water vapor, and we have to get rid of that. But we go down into that further. So feeding is number one on my list of characteristics. All right. The second one is growth. And growth is always accompanied by development. So growth and development, and growth basically is the irreversible increase in size. All right. And as I said, this accompanies that development. Like when you're born, you're a baby, you grow, you become a toddler, then you become an adolescent or a teenager, and during the teenage phase, you go through what we call puberty. And puberty now is the whole development aspect where your body starts to change. For the females, and for the males, you have more sweat glands being formed, so your skin get oily and acne tends to form, where these Americans call um they have a pimp or whatever they call it. So yeah. Also you start to your body starts to get hair, like hair grows on the arm and around the pubic area for both boys and girls. And for girls, your ovaries start to produce mature eggs, and this is where your menstruation or your menstrual cycle starts. Your breast gets bigger, you will notice that fat is deposited around the inner thighs and around the buttocks area, and that gives girl that curve shape, and that bounce when they walk. Yeah. So that's development. And like for the tadpole, when it changes into a frog, that's development, and the caterpillar changing into the butterfly. The mosquito larva when it emerges as a mosquito, and so on. So all of that is development. Okay. All right. So that's number two. So growth and development. Number two. Number three, we spoke about it, the energy we get from the food, and this is called respiration. So respiration is the third life processes, are the third characteristics of living thing. And food respiration, it basically is the burning of food by oxygen in the cells of organisms to release energy, with carbon dioxide and water vapor being formed as waste, and we call those metabolic waste, which will become clear when I give you the next characteristic. All right, so that's respiration. The food is broken down by organisms, and then oxygen enter them by various means, like with vertebrates. You have what we call breathing. Most people say breathing as a characteristic, but it's not. It is a part of respiration. It is the mechanism that your body has developed to get the air in your body, to get air in and out of your body. From this air, you get the oxygen, which now goes to the cells and reacts with the food, and then you get rid of the waste, which is carbon dioxide, which is formed, which is released out back to the atmosphere. Plants and so on, the air diffuse into them, and you have like some single cellular organisms, the air diffuse through the cell membrane. All right. Now, so that's respiration, the burning of food by oxygen in the cells of organisms to release energy. Now, the third, so we'll say feeding, growth, and respiration. So that's the third one. So we're going on to the fourth one now, which is excretion. Excretion now is getting rid of metabolic waste, because in every living things there are important reactions going on, which we call metabolic reactions, where all these reactions occur, and they are what keeps an organism alive. All right, and these reactions that occur, they produce waste, which we call metabolic waste, and if we allow them to accumulate, they can eventually poison the organism. So you have to get rid of them. So now excretion is the process by which organisms get rid of metabolic waste, which were formed from metabolic reaction. So that's excretion. Now most people mix up excretion with egestion. What is egestion? To bring it down, egestion is like when you go bathroom, go doo-doo. You understand? Pass stool, get rid of feces. And egestion is different, because that waste is really food that was not digested. You ingest the food by putting the food in your mouth, then you chew it up and all that, roll it up in a ball, call a bolus, you swallow it, you go down, it's digested by enzymes, and then into its simple form, like amino acid, glucose, fatty acid, and glycerol, and then absorption occur. And then you have some food that when it goes through, it is not digested, like we call them roughage. What will happen is that the mineral content in them will be absorbed, and the vitamins, and then the rest, then water is absorbed from them, and they go down the large intestine to the colon, and then the other end, which is the rectum, and then they are digested out the body. So those are food that wasn't digested. So don't confuse that with excretion. Excretion is metabolic waste. Like when you have respiration and the carbon dioxide that is formed, you have to get rid of it. And that is excretion when you exhale. When you sweat, you're also excreting too. Because you have things that's broken down, and excess salt in the body is excreted. It's contained in saliva. So saliva has salt it is. And some amount of urea. If you notice, if you wear one clothes or so for more than a week or so, you begin to smell rank. People might wonder if you urinate on yourself or if you piss up yourself. Yeah, because these little trace of urea in the sweat, it accumulate and concentrate. That's why when you pass a madman, it's not that him urinate on himself, but the sweat there concentrate, because I'm have on them clothes for months, them not wash, them not change. So the urea, the trace amount of urea builds up. Also, when you urinate too, you because your body cannot store protein when you eat food. The body use the protein that it it obtained from the food. It use what it for it use a protein to like for build new cells, tissue, muscles, and so on, all in the whole growth process. But after it uses it, then whatever is left, the liver will break that down into urea or uric acid, and then that's excreted in urine. The extra water and stuff mixed with it, so it become urine. All right, get the high rank smell, which is from the ammonia in it, the ammonia compound. Anyway, so that was four. The fourth characteristics. I hope you're checking. Now the fifth characteristics is movement. All living things are able to move around. It's obvious more in animals because animals have to move in order to hunt for food and also to avoid becoming the food. And they also move around to to um to obtain or to meet their mate so that they can reproduce and also to find shelter. Plant movement, it's more incorporated in growth. The movement is more obvious in the growth. But plants also move like you have a shame lady tree. The right name is the Mimosa pudica. When you touch the leaves, it closes up rapidly, as if to say that it scorns or so. And trees, the leaves open up during sunrise when the sun, the sun is coming up above the horizon, so the leaves open out so that they can get maximum exposure to the sunlight. And then when the sun sets, the leaves close back down. Also, trees, the stem will kind of droop, bend over if it's lacking in water. And then when you water it, it slowly moves and becomes upright. All right, so in plants now, yeah, plants, that's how their movements is shown. And also, if you put a plant like in your room and the window, you notice after a couple of days, the stem leaning towards the open window where the sunlight is more intense. All right, which leads me now to the six characteristics of life process. This is called response. But before I go into the response, let's go to reproduction. Then let reproduction be the sixth one. Reproduction now, all living things, in order for them to maintain the continuity of the species, live on and so on, they have to reproduce. If they don't reproduce, they will become extinct, like the dinosaurs and some, like the bird. You also have the type of bird they call the dodo bird, and like the saber-toothed tigers, they are no longer around. They have become extinct. No, not because they didn't reproduce, but I guess because some natural disaster and so on. But if you don't reproduce, then that's what's going to happen too, also. So reproduction, simply put, is the process by which organisms produce new offspring in order to maintain the continuity of the species and also to avoid becoming extinct. All right, so that's the sixth one. And the final one now, which I had started out before reproduction, is what we call response. Some book you'll see response, you will see sensitivity, you will also see irritability, or you simply see response to stimuli or stimulus singular. A stimulus is any little changes that occur, and then organisms react to change. So response is really an organism responding to the changes in their environment. So if you ask what is response, irritability, or sensitivity, is simply put, it's the reaction of organisms to the changes in their environment. And the same way when you touch a shame lady tree, the Mimosa pudica tell you and it close the leaf, that's reaction in plants. The plant leaf opening and closing, it's reacting to the change, presence and absence of sunlight. Opening and closing of the leaf. Also, when the stem droop down and then it comes up upright when water is added, it's responding to the presence and absence of water. Okay? And us now as human beings, I mean, human animals on a whole, because we are animals, believe it or not. We like vertebrates, and well, most vertebrates, in response to temperature, we sweat, we perspire. When the time is cold, we shiver, our teeth cling together, like get scared, you know what I mean? Right, that's responding to changes in the environment. Dogs, no, dogs don't sweat, but when dogs are hot, you see them coming and they hold up the tongue so the heat evaporate off, and it cools down the body. Right. So bees in a hive, when the hive get too hot, all the worker bees start to fan, and they were the first one with this air condition theory. So that all of them wings buzzing, so that the hive immediately gets cool. All right. So there you have it. The 7 characteristics are the 7 life processes of living things. These are what we use to determine whether an organism, whether something can be classified as a living organism. They have to display at least these 7 characteristics and life processes. There are others that they will tell you that all living things have cells and so on. Yeah, but that's a given. Also, some people tell that they need air. Yeah, but the air is what I mentioned earlier that they use for respiration. So when you say respiration, you incorporate all of that. Okay. So have fun studying, remember. Science, number one subject. All other subjects fall under science because science is gathering knowledge about the environment, earth, outer space, living and non living thing, how they interact. And so doing, we use science so we can predict happenings like storm, earthquakes, hurricane, rainfall, and the whole weather thing. So you get the picture. So peace out.